What would you suggest to a young pianist who is considering becoming a collaborative pianist or accompanist? What do you think that they should do to make sure that they do it well?
Well, if you're going to be involved with singers, you really need to know what it feels like to sing. And it doesn't mean you have to have a beautiful voice, but you have to know what the feeling of air passing from here to here out your mouth feels like. And so I would encourage them to do a lot of singing in the privacy of their own home, not necessarily in public. Maybe take a few voice lessons, to get just a kind of a routine knowledge of the mechanics that a singer goes through. You also learn by singing how naked a singer feels, because there's no machinery between you and what's coming out. It's not like a button on an organ or a bow on a violin, something like that. And how else could I empathize with what you're going through as a singer if I haven't gone through that myself? And that's number one. Number two, you've got to learn languages, all the languages that singers have to deal with. You don't have to learn to speak them, but you have to learn how to pronounce them and how the mechanics of the language. So that's French, German, Italian, English, of course. I recently, maybe 5 years ago, learned Russian, so that's really very helpful because there's a whole repertoire in Russian. That's essential. And just repertoire. You know how real estate agents say location. The more repertoire you know, the more you realize what can be happening. Like you might have a concept of fast, and then you learn something that's faster. So now your concept of fast is extended, or slow or loud or soft or whatever it is.
And you have a very specific order list as far as when people ask you what does it take to be a good coach, or how can I find a good coach? You have a very specific prescription.
I do?
Well, it sounded to me like you do from when you were asked that question. Could you share that with us?
Well, if you're putting yourself in the hands of a doctor, you want to know there's a diploma on the wall and that person has some experience and is there for you, right? Otherwise, why assume that the guy is able to help you,
Right.
The same thing with a coach. I mean, a young singer who doesn't have all the money in the world anyway, he or she needs to be sure that it's going to a person who has the kind of experience and knowledge that you get the most bang for your buck, I think that's essential, not to have a million coaches, all of whom give you different ideas, but to have 2 or 3 whom you really trust, who are honest with you, more honest than you'd like them to be with you. That's how I think people grow.
And we're here today at Songfest,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful program helping people focus more on the art of song,
Yeah.
and also giving young musicians, young singers, and pianists an opportunity to work on their craft. What do you think about the program, and can you talk a little bit about what brought you here?
Well, I must like it. I've been doing it since 1996. Either that or I'm very stupid to keep putting myself through it. I've seen this program grow and grow and grow, not just in quantity, but much more importantly in quality, that every year the participants are better and better. I've only been here 2 days now, but I can tell already that the level is the highest I remember. And song as opposed to opera, song is not thriving so much right now. People aren't clamoring for recitals as much as they're clamoring for opera. And there aren't so many places in the world that still are devoted to studying songs. And I would be a traitor to my own profession if I didn't invest in one of those activities, So that's why I'm here. It's fun to come to Malibu. I mean, it's not such an ugly place to be.
Not too bad.
And I work like a dog. I always leave here exhausted, but I leave here very gratified. So
I wanted to ask you about what you think the role of technology is in the world of music today. Where do you think music is going as a result of technology, and what do you think about the intersection between the two?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about it. I think integrating as much technology as you like, as long as the fundamental purpose of the music remains what it was when it was written, 18th century, 19th century, whatever. When it becomes about the technology more than about the words or the music, then it makes me kind of nervous, and why am I doing this? Then we don't really need human beings. We can just generate computer singers and pianists, and
Right.
they'll be much more perfect than you or I could ever be, The imperfection that one hears on a live recording, for me, is so desirable compared to some perfect glossy George Lucas production where nothing ever goes wrong, you know? I admire the technology, but I'm worried that younger people are trusting that to do all the work for them. And that, now I just sound like an old fogey, you know?
No, not
but,
at all.
Yeah, fine, integrate it, but don't lose track of what the basics were before we had it, you know?
What about the other side of technology and using technology to promote careers online, you know, and using various social media, etc.? What do you think the role of that is for the young singer today?
I don't see how you can do without it today, you know, between YouTube and Facebook, and I'm not on Twitter, so I don't even know about Twitter, but you'd be swimming upstream with people under 30 if you didn't make use of those avenues of promoting yourself and informing yourself of what else is out there and stuff like that. It's a small example, but like at my school, and I'm sure it's typical of many institutions. I teach at the University of Michigan. The students used to advertise their upcoming concerts with posters all over the wall and kind of fun pictures and stuff like that. Now there are never any posters. Everything is on Facebook. So you never have to leave your house. You just, you know, until the actual event.
Right?
Exactly. It's not how I behave, but I can't pretend that the tide is not there. The tide is definitely there.
What do you think about our efforts with iCadenza to help young artists establish their online presence and to kind of streamline that to make it simpler for them?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I'm not so familiar with your organization as I ought to be to do this interview.
Sure.
But sure, I mean, listen, anything that helps give people a leg up to get a name out there and a talent out there, how could you say that was wrong, you know?
And finally, for another philosophical question,
Yeah.
Do you think that music informs culture, or do you think that culture informs music?
I think it's the second. I never, obviously you think much more deeply than I do.
No, I don't think that's the case.
I think, you know, like the advent of AIDS, for example, produced a lot of pieces of music. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have happened without this dreadful disease in the world. Politics, you know, political upheavals and wars have definitely informed music. Religion has, you know, take away Christmas, and you lose half the music in the world,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that's the way it works, mostly.
And looking back on your incredible career, it's been over 40 years. Are there any standout performances in your mind, of your own or of some of others?
Yeah, but I'm reluctant to name any particular one. I just know that either when I have created a performance that I think is the very best ever, or when I'm attending one that's like that, I can use that to feed on for weeks and months of mediocre performances. It just kind of is so shining, not because I'm proud of myself, but just because you feel like you really touched the core of something, or someone else did and you happen to be lucky enough to have a ticket for that. It can see you through some very pedestrian hours, you know. That's probably true in any profession. You know, an actor who does a play 8 times a week,
Yeah.
my gosh, there has to be some routine performances. But remember last Wednesday, how fantastic it came together? That's really something to be grateful for. I'm reluctant to give you a single performance, you know.
No, of course.
Okay.
And my last question is there anything that you're working on now, any interesting projects that you want to talk about?
Well, it's interesting for me. When I leave here, I will go to San Francisco, and I'll take part for about the 10th year in a row in a very celebrated young artist program called Merola, M-E-R-O-L-A. And this organization is 50 years old, and I think it's the best young artist program in the world. It's the oldest one in the world. So many great singers that you could list today had their beginning in this program, so they must be doing something right. And they come from all over the world. I know there's a baritone from China coming, and somebody from Belgium, you know. And I'm going to be conducting an opera for them this summer. It's called L'Elisir d'Amore, the Elixir of Love. And it's my first time doing that opera as a conductor, so it'll be scary and fun for me. I'm looking forward to that very much.
That's wonderful. That's such a fun opera.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, thank you so much for
It's
your
a pleasure.
time.
Thank you
Best
for
of luck
asking
in
me to do
all
this.
your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.